How's it going, gamers? This is John with Gamester81.com. This is my walkthrough over the MAGfast 11 arcade area section. This MAGfest has been going on for about 11 years. This is the 11th MAGfest. First time for me personally to attend. In case you guys are wondering what MAGfest it stands for the Music and Gaming Festival. So as you can kind of understand from the title, it does have a lot of gaming and music. So there's concerts going throughout. Cool thing about MAGfest, it doesn't close, so you can attend this arcade area 24 hours a day as the event goes on. ACAM was represented, the American Classic Arcade Museum, which they have a lot of arcades in Fun Spot, which is their main hub, and they lent a lot of machines for this event. MAGfest 11 was held January 3rd through 6th, 2013 in Maryland, and it's a great time. I met up a lot of friends, and they have some classic arcades here. You see Turtles, there's Marvel vs. Capcom, here's a Sonic arcade, which is kind of an unusual cabinet. You don't see many of those. And here's Neo Geo, which of course classic. It's Cruisin' World by Nintendo. That's and Midway. It's a joint venture by Nintendo and Midway. Some of these arcade games weren't working. Most of them were. There's Galaga and Centipede. I apologize for the poor lighting. It was very dark in this area, but it was packed. I mean, I come here at 2 o'clock in the morning and be so many people playing these classic machines. A lot of candy cabs, a lot of Japanese import arcades, fighters, various fighters. People were having tournaments and stuff, their own little tournaments and gatherings, and people were really getting into it. I noticed people were getting really into these arcades, which is great. You can see in the very far background, you see those laser lights. They had different things like Pac-Man and Nintendo and all that cool stuff. This is a Play Choice 10, or that's a Versus cabinet. Actually, there's no Versus. They had a bunch of these Versus cabinets, which is cool. I love it. Some of them you can stand up and play. Some of you sit down. Guys playing Duck Hunt. And they're dual screens. So you had one game on one side, a different Nintendo game on the other. Really cool. I'd love to own one of those before. You can see there's some that are actually able to stand up and play. They're tall enough. A handful of cocktail tables. Here's another cocktail table. That's Donkey Kong Jr. I think Donkey Kong Jr. I believe. Here's Donkey Kong, the original one, which is great. And that is Donkey Kong 3, I believe, that we just passed briefly. Of course, Miss Pac-Man. That one had a multi-arcade, so it had like 36 games in one. I think she was playing Breakout there. There's Galaga, people waving. They had some multiple machines that were the same, so they had multiple Pac-Mans, multiple Donkey Kongs. Some of these machines that were interesting. Some of them had graffiti on the side, like that Junior Pac-Man, but it worked. Love Pac-Man. I really like Pac-Man sped up. That's probably one of my favorite ways to play Pac-Man is when it's sped up. There's Mousetrap. And here is a game that's Arkanoid. I mean, I loved Arkanoid for the Nintendo. Great port for Nintendo. Interesting controller. Road Blaster by Atari. There's 2001 Robotron. If you guys ever played Smash TV, that's like the successor to Smash TV. Moon Patrol, which is a really interesting platforming kind of a vehicle game. You have different weapons. A lot of fun to play. Sinistar. That game wasn't necessarily working. There's a Williams multi-case, so they had Robotron, they had Joust, all those in one. Asteroids. I really like Asteroids Deluxe, which I believe that's Asteroid Deluxe right there. Dig Dug Food Fight. Great port to Food Fight is for the ColecoVision, if you guys ever played that one. Another Centipede. You can see there's multiple Centipedes. Those are always busy. Multiple Galaga. I've heard different people pronounce it different ways. Afterburner by Sega, a really fun game. Mr. Do. Mr. Do game, actually, if you're ever a fan of the show Saved by the Bell, Mr. Do is at the Max, if you ever watch that show in the background. It's a cafeteria, the restaurant they eat at. Dragon's Lair, of course, is a great Laserdisc game, Laserdisc based. Bingo. Berserk by Stern. Stern is more known for making pinball machines, but they made a handful of arcades, and I think Berserk is one of the more well-known ones. This is where we're kind of getting to the Nintendo section where you had Mario Brothers. It's a wide bodies, 2-player. There's Super Mario Brothers Versus. R-Type, which was published by Nintendo in the arcades. Interesting. Versus Golf is, of course, Donkey Kong. Probably Nintendo's most popular arcade game they've ever produced or made. That one's NBA Jam. People are surrounding NBA Jam there. It's classic. That one's is The Simpsons. Not a Systems Cab, but the game in there was The Simpsons, which is a great beat 'em up by Konami. Bad Dudes, another interesting beat 'em up. Akari 3 by SNK, which SNK is more better known for making the Neo Geo. There's Gauntlet Dark by Atari, a really fun multiplayer game. Rampage. There's Terminator 2, the arcade game. There's two of them next to each other. That game is so hard. It's a great game, great shooter, but so freaking hard. There's Clax, wasn't working. Popeye. The originally Donkey Kong was supposed to be Popeye, but Nintendo couldn't get the licenses for Popeye. I guess Miyamoto was a big fan of Popeye, and they eventually got the license for it, and they made a game for it. They had a bunch of dancing games, a lot of musical games, and Dance Dance Revolution, all these things, and these were always packed. I'm not a big fan of these personally, but I can definitely appreciate people who use them. There's some people who are amazing at them for sure. There's a lot of beat 'em games. This one was like where you push buttons and stuff. It was very imported from Japan, and people were just diehard. There's like a DJ style table in there, a guitar freaks or what it was called, but it's a Konami. A drum one, so all the music stuff was lined across the other wall. So they had everything kind of categorized, which was nice. There's another one, you hit buttons and stuff, pretty crazy. These are all Japanese ones. I can't imagine moving all these in here. It's cool. Ice Cold Beer, kind of an interesting one. You have to get the coin and line it up to those holes. A Zack song. And this is another Sinistar. Joust, which is one of my favorite games by Williams. Joust 2 came out during the crash, of the video game crash. Unfortunately, didn't do as well. Space Invaders. There is Jungle Hunt, I believe. And Neo Geo, everyone's around there watching people play. A bunch of Neo Geos. It was just a really great time. I had a blast. 10 here now. I had a broken arm during the time as well, so I can play many of these, unfortunately. There's K2, Killer Instinct 2, and Killer Instinct 1, Mortal Kombat. All the fighters really against this other wall here. Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3. Primal Rage, which is a great Atari game, beat 'em up with dinosaurs. There's 2 Primal Rage. They never made a sequel to that game, unfortunately. There's Tekken 4. There's Alpha, Street Fighter Alpha. Street Fighter 2. The Alpha wasn't working. There's another Street Fighter 2. I don't think there was a dedicated cab for Street Fighter 2. I think they were all conversion kits. So you'll see a whole bunch of Street Fighter 2s, just different designs and stuff for that game. Escape from Mars. Never really played that game, to be honest with you. Here's Breakout. One of Atari's first hits. Outside of Pong, of course, but it's an early hit by that game right there. It's interesting. I don't know the name of that one. The guy's playing that blue hat, but it looks like a Star Wars game. There's Tron, plays very similar to Star Wars. Speaking of Star Wars, I'm playing the cockpit, and you can see I'm with my broken elbow, playing one-handed. It was a good time. I love Star Wars, the arcade. There's Robotron. There's Tron discs, and that's a fun one. You can stand up. I've never seen one where you can actually stand up in there. It's a great time. Very unique cabinet there, pretty rare. And there's another vector style that's called Tail Gunner 2, which is another vector style graphic game. I never played personally, but you sit down, very cockpit style one. There's another Tron. That's the most Trons I'm used to seeing, is like that. Stunt Cycle. Here's Space War. That's a duel. It's almost like Asteroids, but 2-player Asteroids. Really fun game. If you guys ever get a chance to play that, I really recommend it. Here are the pinball machines area. Not too many pins, unfortunately. A lot of them weren't working. There's Hook. This is probably the most disappointing part of the arcade, to be honest with you, was the fact that a lot of these weren't working. But the ones that they did have were cool. There's Indiana Jones, one of my favorite ones by Bally, but that wasn't working. I think it's actually Williams, but there's Pac-Man, wasn't working. Super Mario Brothers was. Next Generation, which is one of my favorite pinball machines, was working. But you can see about half of them aren't functional, unfortunately. But they did have a number of pinball machines. There's Pinball Action by Atari, which is an interesting game. It's a video kind of pinball style, late 70s. It's really cool. Plays very well, actually, and definitely one of my favorite early Atari cabinets. There's Rolling Stones, and earlier, that's a later, more modern day Stern. There's Family Guy. Haunted House, 1943. There's Power Shift by Sega. Anyway, this is a really fun time, guys. I had a blast. If you guys ever get a chance to go to MAGfast, I really highly recommend it. Great place to play some arcades, great place to listen to music. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you saw a particular arcade that you liked, that you maybe like to get your hands on. Thanks for commenting. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.